Before I begin, we'd like to offer some thanks. First, a great thank you to Commissioner Mary Ellen Elia of the Department of Education for allowing us the use of what we believe is a beautiful setting to honor Rapp. We'd like to thank Matt Shamming and his staff. Matt is director of the State Museum. Thank them for their hospitality and their assistance over the past few days. And a very special thanks to a special person and a colleague of ours, Commissioner Roanne DiStito of the Office of General Services, for her assistance in cooperation in arranging today's program. Rapp loved his family, his friends, his community, his colleagues, but he especially loved serving in the New York State Assembly. He revered and respected the Assembly, its customs, its traditions, participating as long as he could, even when his mobility became a bit difficult. Rapp served under 5 speakers, and he held that office in very high esteem. He'd be especially proud today to know that the current speaker has taken time from his very busy schedule to be here to bring official greetings on behalf of the Assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the Speaker of the Assembly, Carl E. Heastie.
So who will say I don't like Republicans? No, really, I'm really honored to be here to pay respects to a great leader and a man who meant so much to New York State politics and a great institution in the Assembly in particular. Although our time in the Assembly didn't overlap, I was able to meet Clarence Rappleyea several times over the years, and I can tell you he was every bit the gentleman that everyone describes him as. Oftentimes, the public only witnesses the disagreements that we have on the floor of the legislature, but let me tell you that there's a certain degree of love and respect that we have for one another, even when we're from opposite parties. We argue and fight, we advocate, we debate. And we may come from vastly different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, all we've ever wanted when you serve in the New York State Assembly is to represent the great state of New York. And in that respect, Rapp is someone we can all admire. He had a great respect for the institution of the New York State Assembly and the role that government plays in shaping our lives. And he worked hard each and every day fighting for the principles he believed in so strongly. In doing so, he earned the respect of colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and in a certain sense, I try to emulate his style by respecting those that may have different views than I or the majority colleagues that I sit with. As Speaker of the New York State Assembly, I know that we all want to make sure that we help our communities, and we have a duty to make sure that no one is forgotten. Clarence Rappleyea was a firm believer in public service and good works that it can accomplish. I read recently that he likened himself to Rodney Dangerfield, saying, "I'm not as funny as Rodney, but I get a lot less respect." But judging by all of the people that I see here today, I can say that he was wrong. He earned a tremendous amount of respect from the members of the State Assembly throughout all his hard work representing his constituents and the Republican Conference. And I have to say, for me personally, when the staff told me that his family invited me, I was really taken aback. And I just want to say to all of you, one, thank you for sharing. And I say this a lot of times, unfortunately, when you have moments like this, that you thank the family members for sharing that person because they shared in public service. But I was just really touched that you asked me to be here, and there was no other way that I could say no to that. So be very proud of him because he was a man that was loved by many, many people. Thank you, and God bless.
Actually, Speaker, you and Rapp had something in common. As smart as Rapp was, like you, he could never figure out what the hell it is that Frank Grimaldi does all day. Before he was a lawyer, before he was a legislator, and before he was a leader, Rapp was a teacher. He used to kid us that his first job was teaching in South New Berlin and Shenango County. He taught history, he coached baseball, he drove the team bus, and in the wintertime he stoked the fires, all for $1,200 a year. That's long before NYSET, I'm sure. It was his skill set, though, as a teacher and a mentor and a coach that I think stuck with him the most. He took great pride in advancing the careers of people that he deemed rising stars in state government. Our next speaker can certainly attest to that. Ladies and gentlemen, the 53rd Governor of the State of New York, the Honorable George E. Pataki.
Thank you, Tony. It's nice to actually see Tom Reynolds clapping when I'm standing about to give a speech. That's an inside story. But let me just begin by saying it's terrific that the Speaker is here and the Majority Leader of the Senate, and to Pam and Stacy and Susan. It's a tribute to how much all of us love your dad, that there are so many people here for this tribute today. You know, when I get up to speak, as many of you have heard me time after time understand, I have no idea what I'm going to say. But I'm going to try this afternoon. And the first thing is to say that this is a somber occasion, yes, because we mourn the loss of a great friend and a great leader. But you look around at the people, and you can't help but smile at the friendships he created, at the joy he brought, and at just the honor that he made all of us feel by being a part of an often maligned political process that he raised to another level. Tony, I have to thank you. That's the first time in a long time anybody's referred to me as a rising star in the Republican Party. And I don't expect to hear that phrase for a little bit longer to come, but it is great to be here, to pay honor to Rapp. And you know, Rapp, you can't help but think of him as a big guy with this booming voice, this gigantic presence, this handshake that devoured most of your arm, and understand that this was not just a leader of a legislative body. This was a giant oak of a man. You know, there's the old question, rhetorical question, if an oak falls in the forest and nobody is there to hear it, do people hear the sound? Well, last week, a mighty oak fell in the forest. Most of us were not there. But let me assure you, everyone has heard the sound. We've heard the sound because that fallen oak has created a giant void first in the heart. In the hearts, obviously, of all of his family members, but I can tell you, in the hearts of all of us here from across party lines and from different careers and paths and everything else, because Rapp was a giant of a man who has left us all with a giant pain in our heart, but a giant sense of gratitude for what he has done. In addition to being that great, inspiring leader, he was a mentor to virtually everyone in this room in one way or the other. And I remember I was very happily ensconced as mayor of the city of Peekskill, New York. I had reached the crowning glory of my political career, and I was perfectly happy. And one of Rapp's many, many tenacious characters who he brought together, Mike Finnegan, shows up one day and says, "Hey, you're a great mayor. How would you like to be in the Assembly?" And I wasn't convinced that was the right thing to do. You never beat a member of the majority who's already incumbent. And then a little while later, Tony Rattaliata came down with Lynn Muller, and we went out and we all got pretty loaded having pizza. And Lynn and Tony and Mike kept plying me with more and more beer, and by the end of the night I said, "Okay, I'll run for the New York State Assembly, stupid though it is." And it was not necessarily the most intelligent decision I made. It was a very brutal race. I had no money of my own, not many resources. As mayor of Peekskill, I may have raised $2,000. But Rapp was there the whole way, because one of the things I learned about him at that time is that if he believes in you, it doesn't matter what the odds are. It doesn't matter whether or not at the end you're likely to win. He'll stick with you. And I remember with 9 days to go, they had done a poll. I had been working so hard. And the poll came down, and Jimmy Natoli came down, and some of the others came down and said, here's the poll, you're losing by 11 points. We then had a few more beers, a second time. Now, and I'm kind of sitting there, stumped, and going, well, this isn't exactly working out the way I planned. But Rapp and Jimmy said, we're staying with you. You're going to win this race. We're going to not just stay with you, we're going to come in and help over and over again. By the way, you have to knock on 3,000 doors over the next 11 days, but we're going to be there. At the end, thanks to Jimmy and Rapp and your tenacity and belief in me, I got elected to the State Assembly. And that is Rapp to a T. But the second thing about Rapp is when we got there, it wasn't just winning the election. That was the first step. It was about being principled. And Rapp was a principled Republican conservative. He was, I would say, and still say, the consciousness of the Republican Party in the state of New York, because he understood the principles that united most of us and that were right in his heart and in mine too for the state of New York. And he made us believe in those principles and understand when you may have this group or that group that's going to come after you. If you vote the wrong way, you vote the right way. And it doesn't matter because you have to be a person of principle. And that, as E.J. McMahon so eloquently wrote about last week, represented Rapp. The other thing that Rapp stood for was the fact that while you can be principled, it doesn't mean people who don't share those principles are not good people. Today, Republicans and Democrats don't talk. Somebody has a different viewpoint. They're not just have a different opinion. You don't like them? That was never Rapp. And you look around this room, there are probably as many Democrats as Republicans because he treated everybody fairly. He might disagree, but he was a person who loved the political process, who loved people. And while you didn't have to share his principles, if you were a good person, he would be your friend. And there is no better example in politics than Rapp Rappleyea as to how to do that. When I ran for the Senate in an uphill primary, Rapp was probably happy to get rid of me because we had a back row of Nozzolio and Reynolds and me and Bob King and earlier Bill Paxson, who had caused enormous havoc before he got elected and went down to Washington. Dick Wesley had escaped to the bench. But I'm sure thank God. Pataki's going to be out of the assembly, no more bomb throwing from the back row. But he did get me aside and said, you're going to win this, because he always believed that I could win races. And when you do, don't change. So many who I trained and mentored in this house went over there. And then when they did, they forgot the principles that we're supposed to believe in. And when I got to the Senate and was under enormous pressure to go along and vote with a budget that I didn't believe in, and I voted no, it was because Rapp Rappleyea told me that principle is more important than accommodation. So that gave me the chance to run for governor because of Rapp Rappleyea. And I just want to tell one other personal story. I was seeking the nomination. And because I voted against the budgets, because I was kind of a renegade, because I was one of Rapp's back row lunatic fringe Republicans, most of the party didn't want me. And they were trying desperately to come up with an alternative candidate, particularly the state Senate. And every day they came up with a different name. And I'm walking into the Capitol sometime in March or April, and Rapp gets me and comes up, shakes my hand and gives me a big bear hug and says, "You're going to be the Republican nominee, congratulations." And I go, "Rapp, what do you mean? They're always after some rich guy to be the nominee. A few days ago it was this one, and a few days ago it was that one, including Donald Trump. And today, didn't you see in the Post today, Frank Zarb, they're talking to Frank Zarb." And Rapp goes to me, "Yeah, I saw that. But don't you understand what it means? They're up to Z in the Rolodex, and they haven't found anybody yet." True story. True story. I will never forget that. It is a true story, and I go bounding up the steps with a newfound confidence. He was right. They were at zero the Rolodex. They couldn't come up with anybody else. They were stuck with me. So all of us know what Rapp has meant to each of us. We know the void in our hearts. We know the mentoring and the guidance he gave us. And we know that he was the type of person who makes people in politics proud. A mighty oak fell last week, but the memory of Rapp, those trained by Rapp, are still here. Rapp, you will always be my leader. Rest in peace. God bless you.
Even well into his retirement, Rapp maintained a keen interest in state government and what was happening at the Capitol. He tried to attend as many events as possible, was always here opening day, was always at the pilots, but as time went on and some of the physical infirmities got the best of him, he was living here at Beverwyck. He couldn't always get out of the apartment, but he was on the phone constantly. And I want to tell you, up until, two of us here can attest, up to 24 hours before he passed, his mind was sharp as a tack. And all he was talking about is what's happening down there, what are they doing, how are my guys, how are my gals doing. He referred to us as guys and gals and my boys. And how's so-and-so, and what happened there? And boy, didn't she do a smart thing last week? And he was right on top of it. Well, I can tell you in recent months in our conversations, he was especially proud of the fact that one of his boys, as he affectionately referred to us, is now the majority leader of the state Senate. And he'd be honored to know that he's here today. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator John J. Flanagan.
I'll tell you what, I've been speaking for 30 years in public. This is a daunting exercise. This is a huge challenge, but I am so happy to be here. To the Rappleyea family, thank you so much for even contemplating having somebody like me up here. I really want to give a shout out again to the speaker. Absolute class act being here. That's why he's a leader. That's why he's a leader. And I also want to thank Tony Casale. Here's a guy who has been in elective office, has served in so many different capacities, and he's always been fantastic at getting things done, being a Republican, being a strong supporter, and guess what? Being a great friend. Let's not overlook the fact that he and Rapp were really, really good friends. And you only get a few of those in life. We all know that, especially in politics. Governor Pataki, it's wonderful to see you here. And I just want to let you know, when we recruit candidates now in the Senate, we take them out for pizza and medical marijuana. The more they smoke, the more they eat. So, you know, it's kind of, you can get the munchies and the nomination at the same time. And by the way, at the young age of 55, I'm still, for whatever reasons, considered a rising star. In the Senate, you can be 75 and be a rising star. We got plenty of room. We'll have all takers. But, you know, I was contemplating what to say, and I think the smartest thing to do sometimes, I had spoken to Tony Casale, among the other people, and I said, what would you say? So he asked me to tell me what, you know, say what I think. But in order to do that, there are so many other people who could be far more qualified, frankly, to stand before you and offer comments, because they knew Rapp better. So I asked Tony Casale. I spoke to Ken Panic. I spoke to Jimmy Natoli. I spoke to George Winter. Spoke to John Faso. I already had all kinds of information from Mike Nozzolio, just listening to how he talked about Rapp. And then I called Paxton today. I get Paxton on the phone. Believe it or not, he was tongue-tied. Bill Paxton, tongue-tied. I asked him, what would you say about Rapp? So there was a remarkable consistency in terms of what was said, and I don't want to miss, I want to stick to a couple of basic themes. And there's a gentleman who, God rest his soul, I think of quite frequently as a parallel to Rapp Rappleyea, and that was Bobby Nortz. Bobby Nortz, who was obviously a great friend, and I've served, the three funniest people I've served with in the legislature are Neil Kelleher, for a variety of reasons, okay? Bobby Nortz and Rapp. And Rapp, in a way, he was like E.F. Hutton. Remember the old commercial? When he would speak, you would have to listen, because if you didn't listen properly, you'd miss half of what he would say. And he had a lot of good things to say. So the things that I heard from different people, and things I knew myself, frankly, people talked about how he was a mentor. Mentor came up on so many different occasions, and that was very, very consistent. So a mentor, he found a way to bring out the best in everybody. Bill Paxton told me this morning, Rapp would push you politically, but never push you to a point where you couldn't be politically. He had a talent to pick out the best in people. So when I ask, there's a couple of things that come to mind. Number one, Clarence Rapp Rappleyea was a gentleman. Let's not lose sight of that. And in the world we live in, to have that moniker and for have people say that about you, that's inherently valuable. So a gentleman, great friend to so many people. And as I said, this guy was funny. He was funny. I mean, he was a leader in so many different ways, but I asked Winter and a couple other people things that he would say, and the governor alluded to this. A gentle giant. I remember meeting him, getting that handshake, thinking like, it's halfway up my back. I mean, the guy was so big. Even when he was thin, he was big, right? He was just a big guy all around, larger than life in many respects. And he, as was said, brought out the best in people. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of why I believe that to be true. He would find talents in people. What he ever saw in me, frankly, I don't know. Reynolds, I'm not even sure. But, and I have to be careful because he speaks after me. But I'll tell you, will show you why he was so astute. I served with George Pataki, and I remember a couple of things, and he will not be offended by me saying this because I've said this to him before. He could be brilliant and absent-minded at the same time. We would be in the gym, the governor would finish his workout, and he would forget basic things like a hairbrush. So we would comb his head with a towel. Number one. Number two, I remember meeting the governor on the thruway one time. He was stopped on the side of the road. Governor, how you doing? He was in the Assembly at the time. Not so good. I ran out of gas. He was on the way home. He ran out of gas. More than once, I might add. And third, you ever play basketball with this guy? He's a chucker of the highest order. But when he hit the sweet spot, he did it fantastically. And that's what Rapp Rappleyea saw in George Pataki. And I do believe it's fair to say that one of the primary reasons that George Pataki became a great governor in the state of New York is because of Rapp. The governor knows that, Rapp knows that, we all know that, and guess what? We all benefited by that. Now, there are certain things that Rapp was able to do, and I heard this third hand. Nizzolio can attest if I'm right or wrong, but I think it was that triumvirate over there, Nizzolio, Paxton, and Weston. The story goes something like this. Paxton was so organized that he would get his shirts done, and they would come back from the cleaners in a box. Most of us, like 99.9% of the world, would put the shirt right on. Not Bill Paxton. He would iron the shirt before he put it on. Rapp was able to convince him, just wear the shirt out of the box. Boom, he ends up going to Congress. The other thing that I think of Rapp, he never forgot his roots. He never forgot his constituents. And I think of him, could you imagine being on trial against Rapp Rappleyea? It's one of the old line, ladies and gentlemen, you have to forgive me, I'm just a country lawyer. Next thing you know, you're walking out, your briefcase is empty, you're half naked, but you're still smiling. Like, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. So that skill set he brought to the legislature, and quickly, when I got elected, I came in under very unusual circumstances, as many of you know. Michael Trunzo was dispatched to my campaign by Rapp and the people in Albany, and basically was my sidekick for 5 weeks. And when I got there, these are little things that really do matter over time. The guy puts his arm around you, and you're like, I'm good. I got my blanket right here. Everything's going to be fine. I'm going to be well taken care of. And as Tony Casale had said, after Rapp left public service, I was thinking about this. There were often times we're traipsing through the Capitol in the hallways. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, I've got to run into these people. I'm in a rush and everything. I would see Rapp. He was always the kind of person you wanted to go talk to. He was always the kind of person that you wanted to go see. He had that smile. He had he just was a real person, which I found so extraordinarily important. So I'm going to close on this, and forgive me, I just want to make sure I'm reading this quote correctly. And by the way, he was respected by everybody. Everybody. Not many people ever get that in life. Now, I could read this whole thing, but many of you are familiar with this, and this, I think, epitomizes what people said about Rapp. This is from Rudyard Kipling. It's a famous poem called If. And the latter part of it says, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. If all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute, little literary license here, with 60 seconds worth of really fast car racing, not distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. I'm a better person because I knew Rapp, and I think we could all attest to that. And he is in my mind about how to be a leader. In his absence and in his presence, I feel like I'm a better public servant, and I am deeply gratified to have the opportunity to speak to the Rappleyea family and to all of you. Rapp, God rest your soul.
You've gotten very funny since you left the Assembly. Very good. Saturday at the funeral service in Norwich, Jimmy said that every time he met someone new, he'd say, "My name is Rappleyea, but they call me Rapp." And that's how he wanted to be known by his friends and everyone else. But other than being called Rapp, which he preferred, I think the one title he appreciated the most was that of leader. And he had several serious titles in his career. But he truly was a great leader, and I think it's only appropriate that someone who stepped into his shoes and also knows what it means to be a leader is here today representing all the former leaders of the Assembly and the Republican members of our conference, our good friend, a great Congressman, Tom Reynolds.
To the Rappleyea family, thank you for sharing Rapp Rappleyea. His extended family is here today. Clarence D. Rapp Rappleyea never met a stranger, never had an enemy throughout public life. And looking at the front row, I can tell you we all had enemies. To know him was to like him, just like that. I first met Rapp in 1973 when he first came to Albany as an assemblyman. I was a 23-year-old kid working on an Assembly Select Committee. Some of you were with me. He was folklore already, a country lawyer, a city attorney. He'd been a teacher. He's a race car driver for Ford Formulas, an airplane pilot. He played minor league baseball. He had a smile and a personality with a handshake that would engulf even a boxer's hand with his. He joined what was the last Assembly Republican majority under then Speaker Perry B. Duryea. He came up through the ranks, taking on any job that the leadership asked him to do. He worked tirelessly. And in 1983, he became the Assembly Republican Leader. In 1989, I came back to Albany as a newly elected assemblyman. Rapp was my leader. Rapp was a leader's leader. He wouldn't ask anybody to do anything that he wouldn't do or have done. He showed us as members how to achieve more than you ever believed you could do, while he listened and listened and listened to each of his members who shared almost everything with him. Having served in the majority, Rapp led the conference to do things and to think things differently. It takes the opportunity to learn how to govern responsibly with old-fashioned, tried, and true values, and a few Rappisms. Racing cars was safer than politics. If you hadn't learned it already, he taught you that your word is your bond. Staff heard this more than the members. Bad news doesn't get any better with age. Members would hear, let's run it through the traps. Never jump into the water until you know how deep it is. Boys, we're going to have to walk the plank. Now, don't burn bridges unnecessarily. You never know when you have to cross them again. Rapp's one-liners helped burn in a message, even when it came to Governor Mario Cuomo's budget. I quote, "It isn't a budget, this is a buffet," end quote. And, quote, "You don't mortgage the house to paint it." Now, I'm willing to tell you there were over 50 members went back home and said something just like that. He built an outstanding staff for all of us as Assembly Republicans. His playbook of ideas, practical policy, conservative values, combined with his political savvy and know-how, earned loyalty and discipline throughout the conference, the Capitol, and across New York State. He truly exemplified the best of public service, a true role model for all of us. 1995, Rapp left the Assembly to become chair of the New York Power Authority. He said at the time he left, quote, "It was a wild ride. I wouldn't change a thing," end quote. Following Rapp, I had the honor and privilege to be elected leader of the Assembly Republican Conference. From day one, I had big shoes, big suits, and a larger-than-life personality to come behind. I filled the shoes, I filled the suits, and I worked on my personality. But Rapp had me prepared and was always available to guide and assist in any way that I needed help or good advice. Rapp's legacy in the Assembly are the people he taught, guided, and developed, along with his playbook, used by Governor Pataki in his first term, along with some of Rapp Rappellea's Assembly staff helping the new governor implement that policy. He possessed the remarkable ability of making good government, good politics, using humor, wit, ideas, values, and spirit. Mr. Leader, my leader, may you rest in peace, having lived a wild ride, not wanting to change a thing. And until we meet again, those of you like me who loved you, we'll just keep sawing wood.
Been a lot of references to Rapp's handshake, and I just recalled, just hit me, several years ago I introduced Rapp to a surgeon friend of mine, and as Rapp puts his hand out, the doctor says, "Oh no," he said, "I got to work with these hands." He's a smart man. As an excellent lawyer himself, Rapp also had an eye for good legal talent. And again, he prided himself as a mentor, encouraging young lawyers to succeed, guiding them, honing their skills. Rapp also took great pride in something else. He appointed one of the first, if not the first, woman as chief counsel to a legislative leader. Our next speaker not only served as counsel to the minority leader, she went on to be Solicitor General of the state of New York, a justice of the state Supreme Court, and an associate judge of the New York State Court of Appeals. Ladies and gentlemen, our dear friend, the Honorable Victoria A. Graffio.
so much. Don't you envy me to have to go last after these marvelous tributes? It's a privilege for me to be part of this wonderful celebration of the life of such a great man who meant so much to so many of us, both professionally and personally. Sometimes in life you experience an unusual coincidence that later results in a great impact in your life. And my own story about the Honorable Clarence D. Rappleyea Jr. reflects such a coincidence. My story begins in 1974 when I was a college senior. I first met Rapp while I was student teaching 11th and 12th grade history at Norwich High School in Shenango County, and Pam was in Don Sherlin's 11th grade class. She was very well behaved, by the way. I don't remember her as one of the troublemakers. But while I was doing my student teaching, I started to receive acceptance letters to law school. And this, of course, created a bit of a dilemma for me, and I was undecided as to which career path to follow. So I consulted my supervising teacher, and I mentioned that I didn't know any lawyers and I didn't know anything about law school. And he said, well, I'm going to take you to meet one of my buddies, Rapp Rappleyea. And at that point, Rapp had been practicing for over a decade in Norwich. Rapp graciously met with me at his home and encouraged me to consider a legal career since law schools were starting to admit more women. As an impressionable college senior who was driving a rusted Plymouth Duster at the time, after Rapp proudly showed me his fabulous Porsches in the garage, I think I figured, hey, if attorneys can own cars like that, this is the career for me. And I sent in my deposit. It always helped if you loved fast cars to work with Rapp. True to his generous character, and as a former teacher, Rapp enjoyed mentoring and steering the careers of young people. Many folks here owe their professional success to Rapp's tutelage and guidance. Well, in my situation, 10 years passed, during which time I practiced law in a litigation firm here in Colony. I served as an assistant counsel at a state agency. And in another fateful coincidence, then Assembly Minority Leader Pro Tem Kemp Hannon, at the recommendation of Joyce Chupka, my dear friend who's here today, I received a phone call from Kemp asking me if I'd be interested in applying for the position of floor counsel with the Assembly Minority. I didn't know much about the legislature at that juncture, but I had been considering a change of jobs, so I figured I would go and speak with him. So we did the interview, and then he said, I want you to meet the minority leader. I walked into room 933, and there was this imposing figure, that deep, rich voice sitting behind that massive desk with the big saw in front of it. And I said, oh my goodness, this is the same Mr. Rappleyea that 10 years ago encouraged me to go to law school. And the rest is history. To my good fortune, I started working with the Assembly minority members and staff. Maybe it was partly because he was the father of 3 daughters who he deeply admired and loved, but I believe it was a testament to his belief in equal opportunity that Rapp gave me as a young woman the opportunity to serve as chief counsel. And I will always be grateful that he had that faith in me to deal with these characters who you've heard about today. The other distinguished speakers here have eloquently summarized Rapp's unwavering commitment to his values and philosophy that made him such a respected government official and party leader. But in addition to his political talents, I can attest that Rapp was a very talented lawyer and a beautiful writer. He also had enviable penmanship. At the service, which was so lovely on Saturday in Norwich, his daughters displayed a letter that their father wrote to them in 1968 about the need for solitude and self-reflection. I had tears in my eyes as I read that letter because it read like literature, and it reflected his keen intelligence and scholarship. He brought such thoughtful insights to his public policy positions, and he taught us through his daily actions how to conduct ourselves with professionalism, conviction, integrity, and good humor, and also to always keep your shoes shined. He had that shoe polish machine right in the bathroom in 933. Rapp spoke to the folks in his district in the same manner that he addressed governors. He treated everyone with respect, and in return, he was the recipient of much affection and admiration. Over the years, I have met so many people from all political persuasions who have remarked to me what a wonderful man Rapp was. Never has anyone expressed a negative comment. He was universally admired as a true public servant who never abused his position for personal gain. During his remarkable career in government, Rapp spawned scores and scores of people who went on to successful careers, and you've heard all about the members of his conference. But I'm here today to talk about Rapp's Raiders, his staff. In addition to terrific governor and the members of the minority who went on to become state senators and served in Congress and federal judges, the record of accomplishment of his staff is astounding, and I think it's a tribute to Rapp's ability to groom talent and to instill a love of public policy and public service. His adopted son, James Natoli, Director of State Operations for Governor Pataki, 2 chairs of the Public Service Commission, Maureen Helmer and William Flynn, now the managing partner of our Harris Beach office, Gary Levine, Senior Vice President and Chief Legal Officer for Niagara Mohawk, Paul Mazlak, currently the President and CEO of the New York Health Plan Association, the Honorable William Pauley, U.S. District Judge in the Southern District, Gary Paslow, Writer Extraordinaire, Corporate Communications Manager at NISO, E.J. McMahon, President of the Empire Center for Public Policies, Court of Claims Judge Judith Hard, James Dillon, the former New York State Commissioner of Labor, and this list could go on and on. I could go up and down the rows here to talk about the people who worked with Rapp and where they eventually took their careers. We are proud to be Rapp's professional legacy, and we continue to hear his voice telling us to do what's right for our communities and for the people of the state of New York. Thank you, Rapp. No words can adequately express our admiration and gratitude for all you did for us, and we all offer our deepest sympathy to his wonderful family. Rest in peace, leader. You'll always be our leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. That was excellent. It would be impossible to have everyone speak today and continue on. As Rapp would say, enough of the throw-up speeches. Time to have some fun. But I think it would be appropriate for the family if I would ask the following groups as I call out to please stand. Would all the people who served in the legislature with Rapp please stand up? Would all those who served on Rapp's staff please stand up? We had full employment in those days. Another group is here. Rapp prided himself on being one of the few people selected as an honorary member of the Legislative Correspondence Association. Will the members of the LCA please stand? I know several of you over here were here. Maybe they had to leave, but there were several reporters. Several of them are here. Please be recognized. all know, Rapp truly had the respect of the press his entire career. At this time, Pam Rappleyea of Edinburgh wants to come forward. I know she wants to say a few words on behalf of her siblings and her family.
I just want to express appreciation on behalf of our mother, whose health doesn't permit her to be here, but we know she's here in spirit, and my sisters, Stacy and Susan. This is just, I'm at a loss for words. Just having all of you here means so much to all of us. Just hearing the stories and the memories has been very healing, and it's great to hear he had such a great impact on so many people. I know we knew that he did with us, but we love the support you're giving us and really appreciate you being here. And I love the jokes. If any of you happened to be at the Norwich service, you would have appreciated my youngest sister, the stand-up comedian, because she had quite a few good ones herself. But I just want to thank everyone, but I particularly want to thank Senator Flanagan, Governor Pataki, Congressman Reynolds, Tony Casale, Vicki Graffio, Speaker Hasty, for their lovely remarks today. I want to thank those that made this possible today, because we, quite frankly, none of us had ever gone through this and had planned any kind of service, because, as I mentioned Saturday, Dad was fully convinced he was going to live forever, and so he wouldn't go there with us, so we were kind of, shooting darts, trying to figure out how to plan Saturday's service. And a wonderful group of Dad's long-term, friends, including Tony Casale, Jim Natoli, Regina Dubois, I'm going to say it correctly today, Barb Fahey, Gary Levine, and Gary Paslow were instrumental in getting us through this week and really helping guide us with plans and preparations. And they and Bill Flynn were really responsible for pulling this together today. And I think it's been great, and Dad would love it, and I fully believe he's getting a kick out of it today and enjoyed the remarks. So I just want to thank you all again for coming. It means a lot. So thank you.
More than once, we've heard people over the weekend say, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if it weren't for Rapp. How true that is. At the service in Norwich on Saturday, our state chairman spoke and said that we were all the political children of Rapp, just like his own children, to carry on his legacy. Now it's our duty to carry on that legacy and also to train the grandchildren of the Rappleyea legacy. So I think the best tribute we can pay to Rapp is to continue to do what we're doing, and as Rapp would say, keep your head down, keep on sawing wood. If you must walk the plank, do it in shallow water, and when in doubt, just lay in the weeds. God bless you, Rapp. Thank you all for coming.